So the reality is that overthinking can truly destroy your life. And the promise of this video today is to help you get out of your own way and to stop overthinking. Because the truth is, when you are an overthinker or you're somebody who is in this constant state of analysis, you become somebody who is not an executor, right? You're not somebody that carries momentum, that carries the energy that allows you to continuously improve your life. You're stuck in this paralysis, essentially. As an overthinker, you're living in this world in your mind where it's very life limiting, right? You're constantly in this battle of option A or option B. And within that process, you're not allowing flow, you're not allowing momentum to build, you're not allowing yourself to develop, and you're not allowing for growth. So I kind of think of this as, person one and person two. Person one is a chronic overthinker, always deciding whether they should make that move or make that decision in life. And person two is somebody who just sets a schedule, sets a process, builds a system around their life for whatever goal they're trying to execute. So setting goals is very important, but it's also about setting an identity, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So person one is going to go off of their own mind, the own structure of their mind, right? They're going to be in a position where they're going to wake up and have to make a decision. It's not something that's just embedded into their life. It's not something that is just coming from the soul and the right processes in their mind. So their output is going to be very inconsistent, right? They may post that video on Tuesday or they may not, depending on how much overthinking is happening within that process. But person B has a schedule that every Tuesday I'm going to be posting. So there's a build up, there's an execution plan that takes place. And if you look closely at the most successful people in life, they're so in tune with their identity, they're so in tune with their soul, that there is no room to negotiate with yourself. There is no room to go from option A to option B. It's just part of their being, right? There's no waking up in the morning, dragging your feet, should I go to the gym today? In the person who doesn't overthink, it's there, it's gonna happen. It's just part of their life, it's embedded. So you really need to get out of your own head and not allow yourself to negotiate with yourself, because the reason this gets dark or this can get bad very quickly is because you're putting yourself in a position where you lose trust with yourself. And as a human, the number one tool we have, the number one processor is our mind. And if our mindset is weak and if we're constantly negotiating with ourselves, we're teaching ourselves not to trust ourselves. And if you don't trust yourself, everything that comes out of your mouth, everything that you say you're going to do and then you don't end up doing, that builds in your mind. That builds habits, really bad habits that again become very life limiting. So you have to be very, very careful to, again, not lose trust with yourself. The moment you lose trust is the moment you lose, honestly, grip of reality. That's where the people who aren't smarter than you, the people who aren't as capable as you, the people who aren't as talented as you, the reason they're passing you is because they're in a flow state. They're very in tune with their identity and they're very focused on the goal or task or mission that they have in life. But if you're an overthinker, you're in a constant place of just getting in your own way. You're just creating mental hurdles and mental blocks that don't allow you to thrive as an individual. So, if you're somebody who's extremely talented, has a lot of knowledge, has a lot of opportunity in life, or again, if you live in a country where you have internet access, you have all these opportunities. I mean, we live in an incredible world, right? The phone in your pocket is nothing short of a miracle, right? The opportunity you have in this day and age with AI and everything that's surrounding you is incredible. There's no excuse for you not to succeed or not to have all the tools at your disposal to succeed. So if you look closely, it's not just the people who aren't as talented as you that are passing you. A minimum wage employee that is consistently going to work is going to beat the overthinker that's talented, right? If I'm an overthinker and I'm sitting at home and I'm constantly planning and strategizing and trying to build my plan, but I'm doing no action, there's no momentum forward, the person that's getting up and going to work at their 9 to 5 minimum wage job is not only making more money than you, but over a long period of time, they're building better habits than you, right? So every career and every opportunity is different. But if you're, again, constantly in your own mind, there is no motion. So a really practical way to look at this for anybody that is overthinking a project, overthinking a YouTube channel, overthinking a decision in your life, through action, through momentum, there's a lot of things that become revealed to you essentially with that process. So your goal should be to really simplify this process is make it exist and then make it better. So what does that mean? If you're somebody who's trying to become a YouTuber or you're starting a business, launch, ship something, right? Ship a product quickly. Post that first YouTube video, make it exist. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect in the beginning, but if you make it exist, now you have momentum. Now you can put things out. Now you can figure out what's going wrong, figure out the process. And it creates this certain urgency around your goal and around your mission and identity. And I'm really excited to talk about identity here in a moment. But look at all the people around you, right? A great example of this, IShowSpeed, a couple years ago, what was he doing? He was in his bedroom making Twitch streams, even like barking at a Twitch stream, which is hilarious. But he made it exist. He wanted to be an entertainer. He wanted to be someone who, is creating value, creating entertainment value. And to go from somebody who was barking in his room, if you told Speed that he was going to perform at the World Cup with his own song, maybe at that time he wouldn't have even believed you. So that's the idea, is just get started, and it's going to allow you to create more, it's going to allow you to be consistent, and it's going to allow you to build the right habits. As somebody who has always been overthinker, constant strategizer, the best seasons, the best moments in my life have always been when I've started something and just focused, dedicated myself to it, and been extremely consistent. Of course, when you post a video, you're gonna get feedback. Of course, when you have a mission or have a goal, you can get 1% better every day. But I can't get 1% better every day if I'm sitting here still overthinking, trying to make the decision of even just doing the simple task. And IShowSpeed is just one example. There's many examples like this. Mr. Beast, great one. Just a random guy, I forgot what state, I think it was Ohio, in his bedroom, again, counting to 100,000 on a webcam. So he didn't have fancy equipment, he didn't have the budgets that he has today, but he had a will, he had, a thought in his mind of, hey, I want to do YouTube, I want to succeed at YouTube. And he posted the first video. And through the first couple of videos, of course, budget's going to increase. He connected with his friends, he had a good ecosystem around him, constantly learning and constantly improving his YouTube process. But that would have never happened if he didn't make it exist as step one. You have to make it exist. Whatever goal you have, whatever thing that you're constantly overthinking, you're overthinking your weight, you want to get in shape, make it exist. Go to the gym for day one. See how good you feel after going, right? There's this idea and there's this process, I see this all the time, where you have to break the pattern or else it's going to continue to repeat, right? Insanity is doing the same thing every single day and expecting something to change. And that's how most people live their life. They're in this constant battle within themselves. Let's not even talk about competition. Let's just talk about you getting out of your own way. That's step one, right? You have to be in this flow state. You have to wake up with the passion of 50 men. You can't wake up, again, dragging your feet. That's not, God didn't put you in this world for you to, again, be constantly battling yourself. You have to find what turns you on, what excites you, what puts a spark in your eyes, right? The most successful people are always the people that are the most passionate, the most obsessive, that are constantly challenging themselves and taking themselves out of, an uncomfortable situation in their life. And the way you do that is by shocking the system, right? Wake up one day at 4 a.m., see how good you feel. Wake up one day at 4 a.m., go to the mosque, go seek God's help. It's such an important part of life. Shock the system. Go on a hike with your buddies. Go do something you've never done. Go travel. Go do an experience you've never done. Go get perspective, right? A lot of the time, people grow up in their city, and that's it. All they know is the people around them, and the life that they have and the town that they live in. So when you go travel and you experience these different cultures, you get perspective. Every nation, every country, their lifestyle prioritizes certain things, right? When you look at the United States, it's very based around work, right? Everybody works a 9 to 5, and it's so crazy because it becomes their identity, right? When you look somebody up and down in the United States, especially somebody that's in the corporate world, and not to sit here and talk bad about corporate, it could be a great season in your life to develop skills, to have financial stability. And again, if you love your career and your career is challenging and you're making 200, 300K a year as an employee, all the power to you. That's incredible, right? More often than not, you're actually going to be making money than most wannabe entrepreneurs who think that they're doing something with entrepreneurship, but in reality, a successful corporate executive is going to make more money than that entrepreneur. So what I'm trying to say is, when you get out of your comfort zone, you get out of your room, you get out of this negative environment that you're constantly in, what happens is you get perspective. You get to see that a lot of people don't have the opportunities that you have. A lot of people don't have perfect access to internet. A lot of people don't have an environment or a city or a country that's conducive of creating opportunity, right? And the beautiful part of America, the American dream, and why our parents immigrated here is because there's there's nothing stopping you here from success. It's your will to win. It's your will to produce a great product and put out a great product and consistently grow and learn within that process, right? There's nothing in America that stops you from being a multimillionaire, even a billionaire, if you create enough leverage, right? There's a lot of different ways to create leverage in this day and age. So you gotta wake up. You gotta snap out of it. You gotta see the perspective, see the opportunity that's in front of you, and I promise your life will change. So among Mr. Beast, Kai Cenat, Emma Chamberlain, Sidemen, Cabby Lane, all these people, again, they weren't famous from day one, right? They didn't have connections from day one, but they made it exist and they constantly improved it. That's the key. So if you're considering starting a YouTube channel, if you're considering starting that side hustle while you maintain a stable 9-to-5 job to again continue that stability and develop your skills, that's totally okay, but you have to make it exist. You can't debate with yourself. That's a really, really important thing that I think a lot of people need. I think another really important lesson that people can draw from this is the reason you're an overthinker is because you don't have a strong enough identity or mission to carry you. So yes, it's absolutely important to set goals. Goals are extremely important, short-term and long-term goals. But if you think about it, a goal has an expiration date, right? The Olympic athlete that's been training their entire life on their craft, whether they're a skier, a swimmer, etc. Michael Phelps is a great example. He worked his whole life to get that gold medal. And as soon as he got the gold medal, right, the goal was the gold medal. In his biography, he talked about feeling depressed after he won the gold medal. For him, the greatest swimmer of all time, it's incredible. It's an amazing story. But as soon as that goal was completed, he felt a little bit a loss of purpose. But the individual who has a strong identity or a strong mission, that doesn't have an expiration date. So let me give you a great example. I have an amazing friend, incredible speaker, incredible content creator. His identity and mission in life is to become a wise man. If you look closely at that sentence, that has no expiration date. He's not going to be able to accumulate all the knowledge in the world before he passes away. May he live a long life. Being a wise man is going to be constant work. It's going to be decades of work. He might be 80 years old and he still has so much to learn. So when you tie yourself to an identity that is much stronger, that has a deeper purpose, it doesn't have an expiration date. So you get to wake up every single day with this spark, with this underlying fire and passion underneath you to constantly improving and constantly learning. So it's really powerful. It's very different from setting a goal. So that's one thing, is create an identity so strong, create a vision, create a mission for your life. Take out a piece of paper, write it down. Before you get anywhere, you have to figure out what where am I going? What's the direction I want to go in? What do I want to embody? Because the powerful part about identities is, and the scary part as well, right? A lot of people are preconditioned into a certain identity. If you grew up in a bad environment and you grew up in an environment that created these negative habits, these negative mindsets in your life, you might decide tonight, you may be watching this video at 2 a.m. and you're like, this is it, I'm gonna change. And you'll get that surge of motivation. You'll feel it. You'll feel it in the gut of your stomach. You'll feel it. You get excited. Maybe you do. You crush 100 push-ups and you go to bed with this excitement. Here it is. I'm about to change. But guess what happens? You wake up the next morning and you slip in. Why? Because that surge of motivation is good, but there's no identity. There's no mission tied to it. There's nothing that's allowing your body to get out of that previous identity. And remember, you're preconditioned. So if I'm if I grew up in a middle class household, and my vision and my, even if it's not something I believe, because your beliefs change over time, but I'm preconditioned to this idea of success, to be a working class man, to have a great family, to take care of my kids, to be a good father, right? That's a beautiful identity to have. A lot of people embody that and live that, but that might not be aligned with my identity and my mission for my life. Maybe that kind of lifestyle doesn't create enough growth in my life. It doesn't create enough of a challenge. I know I could be a great father, but is that going to be the identity I want my entire existence to be? That's what you have to think about. And again, same way I was saying earlier, if you work a 9-to-5 and you're embedded into this corporate culture where you have negative coworkers, or you just have this, think about it, you spend more time with your coworkers than your own family. So what happens is you look somebody up and down, you see the little roll in their shoulder. They live and breathe that corporate environment. So you're preconditioned. You're preconditioned to these environments, and your body is not going to want to change. Your mind might want to change. You have to improve. You have to get better in life, but your body is going to resist. So have some grace, have some patience with yourself. It's not going to be easy. You set a goal of you wanting to get in shape, great. know that it's going to take 30, 60, 90 days for you to build a strong enough habit to where it becomes like flow state. But there's going to be resistance. Your body's not going to want to do it. So you have to overcome that through having a very strong mind. And you're not going to have a strong mind just by having intrinsic motivation come to you. You're going to have a strong mind by writing down the mission, writing down the identity that you want to embody and that you want to live. So very, very important process. So once you have decided what your mission, what your ideal is, what your identity that you want to essentially embody is, now you can start to build trust back up with yourself, right? The reason athletes are so confident in what they do is because of the amount of practice they've had in their life, right? If you look at the equation for becoming a better speaker or really becoming better at anything, it's kind of a three-part equation. There's knowledge, so having genuine expertise on that given subject or sport, so just being very knowledgeable. And then the other part is practice. So the person who is knowledgeable has major depth, a major obsession of continuously learning in their field, and who is constantly practicing within their field is going to beat the person that's more talented. Now, if you have knowledge and you practice a lot in life and you have talent, you're going to be unstoppable. So I want to give you guys a beautiful example. I recently watched a video by Professor Winston from MIT, and it was a lecture on how to become a better speaker. And one of the comments, a beautiful story, was this professor was teaching for over 30 years at MIT, and he did the same lecture, so the same topic. He did it for over from 1970s all the way up until 2018 when he unfortunately passed away. But one of the beautiful stories is a student saw him once at 6 a.m. At MIT on a chalkboard, just writing down the given lecture that he was going to do. And mind you, he had given this lecture almost every week since the 1970s. So it's an incredible amount of practice. But the student went up to him and said, "Hey, Professor Winston, good morning. What are you doing here?" And while the professor was, working on the board and kind of practicing his lecture, he initially ignored the student. So the student went, into the kind of the center where he was working. He waited, just started doing his thing, and then when the professor was finished writing on the chalkboard, he turned to the student and he told the student, "I apologize. I was, practicing my lecture that I'm going to be giving today." And the student looked at him and he said, "Professor, you've been teaching this lecture for 30 years. Do you really come every morning at 6 a.m. and practice the lecture you're going to give?" And he said, "I do, because not only is it empowering, I have a responsibility to make sure all my lectures are great because people are spending a lot of money to be here at MIT." And he loved his craft. And when you look at it, I'll link the video in the description. He's a master at what he does. Incredible speaker. The timing of his jokes, the ability to watch how he writes on the chalkboard. It allows you to focus his analogies, his stories, the props that he uses, the setting that he's in. Again, it's masterful work. You have to watch his video, so I'll link it. But it's the same thing. Like when Michael Jordan showed up to the court, why did he have this supreme confidence? One, he knew if he takes the shot, it's going to go in or it's not going to go in. So why would he doubt himself before he takes the shot? He talks about this in a lot of interviews. It's a wonderful thing. So take the shot and have confidence that you're going to make the shot. Why would you already second guess yourself before you've even done the thing? And if you really want to become masterful and not become an overthinker, you have to embody the thing that you're chasing. You got to practice. You got to learn as much as you can about it. So a practical tip is, if you're trying to become a YouTuber, study the game, right? Learn from the top YouTubers, watch videos, experiment. And then more importantly, after getting the knowledge, right? Because I promise you, all of you've watched enough courses, you've watched enough videos. It's time for you to execute through practice. So through realistic practice, through realistic, consistent effort, you're going to get 1% better, right? The first 80 videos of a YouTube channel, ignore the stats. You're going to suck. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to want to listen. But by your 100th video, you're starting to build this undeniable strength and identity and trust in yourself. The way you walk is different. The way you talk is different. And again, that's why, Conor McGregor, when he pulls up to do his fight, he has this supreme confidence. Especially go watch the interviews early in his career. There's a little bit of a craziness to him, this obsession, getting lost in your work and life. It's so important. If you don't do that, then the person that is going to beat you every day of the week. And not that it's a competition, it's you versus you. And a lot of the time in certain sports or certain businesses, you're your own worst obstacle. I promise you, nobody's taking food off your table. It's yourself. So very, very important to understand that. The next part I wanted to talk about, within the process of overthinking, everybody sort of has this sphere in life, and life throws things at you. So I kind of drew this on the table. So the outer part of this fear is if you wake up in the morning and you don't have an untouchable time period of your life where you get to work on yourself, to have that self-actualization, that time to really develop and become better, what's going to happen is life is going to throw you in different directions. So I'll give you an example. You wake up, you don't have a schedule, you don't have a plan, your car breaks down. So what are you going to do that day? You're going to spend your time fixing the car. These are normal parts of life. These things exist. It's completely normal for these things to exist. You have to get groceries. You have to go to a family event. Your friend calls you up. Hey, let's go watch this movie. Let's go watch this movie. Let's go do this activity. And you're constantly being pulled out of your flow, out of your flow state. And the best athletes and the best individuals around the world, they have dedicated untouchable time. So this can look like 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. Most people are sleeping. You have quiet time, your wife, your kids, whoever it might be in your life. You have this space, this window of opportunity to actually work on yourself. And the friend that I mentioned earlier, I want to share a great example of this. He was working in a sales job. His name is Omar. Again, very talented. You know, he's like a young philosopher, the one who has the pursuit of becoming a wise man. In a sales job that he didn't like, he knew it wasn't the identity that he wanted long term. He would wake up at 4 a.m. and study and read and practice and just obsess over this new identity that he wanted to create for himself. At a certain point, of course, he had an opportunity, built enough of a side income and jumped into that field. Now he's embodying and living that field completely, the field that he wants to embody. And he did that through creating an untouchable period of time, which was 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. before he had to go to the office and work his regular sales job. So yes, that's not ideal, right? To have to put yourself in this position where you have to dedicate 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. or 10 p.m. to midnight, right? Or maybe after dinner time, you spend some time with family. But it's necessary if you want to create a different life. It's a lot of work. Anybody that tells you this is going to be easy is lying to you. This is going to be extremely difficult. But it's going to be the most important work you ever do. Working on yourself and understanding yourself is the greatest asset of your life, right? That's, again, what separates the people who are average and want to live a just normal life versus the people that really want to excel in their domain and excel in their field. So that's the outer bubble. It's all these things that are going to come at you in life that you know you have to do, which is fine, but you have to create untouchable time periods. The reason 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. or 10 p.m. to midnight is so special, your car is not going to break down at 4 a.m., right? You have that time to wake up and create that space to have that peaceful moment, to have that opportunity to really focus on your work. Right? Your friend's not going to call you at 4 a.m. to go watch a movie or to go hang out. So create untouchable spaces of time. Now, in life, in the inner circle, you have your work, you have your health, you have, your family, and you have your religion. So within these untouchable times, again, create an obsession, create an opportunity for you to connect with God, right? Use that as fuel, use that as purpose. It's an incredible thing to have. Meet God halfway in the middle, start and execute, meet him halfway so that he can bless and continue to allow you to grow in life. And again, use that time to study. And remember, how you do one thing is how you do everything in life. So if you really focus up and dedicate yourself and dedicate your time to, I'm going to become a master at this craft. This is my identity. This is the vision I have for my life. If you do that with a passion, you wake up springing out of bed. You see the sparkle in your own eyes, right? You see that in a lot of people who are successful. Start with small habits. Start with a process that is attainable. So start with one goal at a time. If your goal first is just to get in shape so you can have the confidence to go and pursue life, start with that, right? Focus on that for 30, 60, 90 days. Get that habit locked, right? Then go ahead and add habits. And I think scientifically as well, this is huge, where if you work with one habit at a time, it's more likely that you'll succeed. So start with smaller habits to allow you to stack habits up together. So for the people there that are like, okay, great, I have an identity now. I understand what I need to do. I know I need to make it exist, and then I can make it better. But there's still a fear. There's always going to be that slight fear of failure, especially if you've had a track record of failing and not trusting yourself. But through discipline and through practice and through creating knowledge, you start to become confident, right? It's through the repetition. It's through the decades stacked on top of each other. I want to give you guys a great example. I have a cousin, extremely proud of him. He has a startup that is $1 billion valuation. So he is on paper a billionaire. But when you look closely at his life and you kind of connect the dots backwards, he has decades upon decades stacked up of him doing the thing that allowed him to create that wealth. So in his particular case, it was programming. So when he was younger, he figured out how to crack into a computer. I think he built a computer at 8 years old. And from that point on, he continued to learn. So his knowledge continued to increase. He has been programming since that age, right? So imagine the decades of practice and consistency in his field, right? When you do that in any area of life, whether it's speaking, whether it's YouTube, whether it's self-development, right? You got to work on yourself more than you than you work hard for other people, right? This is, again, the most important work you'll ever do. But when you like my cousin or any successful person, stack decades of doing the same thing, you're putting yourself in a position to be lucky, right? You're putting yourself in a position that will create opportunity, right? When you spend decades working on something and growing and getting out of getting out of that comfort, you become a top 1% expert in your field, in your domain, right? So, and with that comes confidence, right? People notice, people start talking, people start inviting you to speak at events. You start developing and shipping and sending products out because, again, it's your field, it's your domain. So with the discipline and with the time, and just understand that this isn't going to be like a 3-month journey and then perfect, you're in the best mental state of your life and that's it, you've done it. This is life work. This is something that you got to do from now till the day you die. So that's how big your identity and your mission has to be. So it may take decades, right? But you're not going to find out how long it's going to take. Now we live in an era where things can happen a lot faster, right? You have AI that can support you. You have AI that can build a product idea out for you. You have distribution platforms. So make a plan, build a plan, right? Create the product, ship it fast, get feedback on it, and build distribution with the tools and resources that you have. So fear is lack of depth of knowledge, and fear is due to not practicing. Of course, if I'm, let's say, starting a new sport, right? I'm starting basketball for the first time. I go to LA Fitness to run a game with the people there. Of course, I'm going to be fearful because I have no practice. My game isn't good. I don't have the necessary knowledge. I don't have the practice under my belt, and maybe I'm not even talented. But through practice, through consistency, every single time I go to play, I'm going to be more confident to take that shot, right? Think about why the ball goes to Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all these great athletes. Is because they've done it so many times, you can trust that when the ball is in their hand, it's going to go in. And sometimes they may not, right? Sometimes you may fail 7 times at a certain project or a certain business. But when it's an identity, you're not going to give up. Even if you fail 100 times, you're not going to stop. But when it's a mediocre goal or it's a surge of motivation that has no depth, no heart and soul, that you're not going to pursue it. You may fail and you might switch and pivot and go to the next thing. So fear is a part of it. Embrace the fear and dive straight into it. A lot of people at this point in this video might be thinking, I haven't done the work. I haven't done the focused work on myself. How can I actually find my identity? So the only way you're going to find your identity is by exploring what's available out there. So again, get out of the pattern that you're in, get out of the rut that you're in, and go travel. Go shadow people that work in fields you might be interested in. Study a field for a given time. Go and execute and do the field. Experience it, try it. And through these experiences, you're going to find your calling, right? God works in mysterious ways. You put 1 foot forward, he'll show you the next 20 steps that you need to take. So experiment, try things. Like you're not going to know that you love cooking unless you try it. Right? You're not going to know that you want to dedicate your life to the love and passion you have for cooking if you didn't take that first step and make that first meal, right? It's the same process in any domain of life. I think the biggest advantage I've had for a long time is my curiosity. So I have an entire video, I'll link it below as well, about how me being curious when I was younger led to a lot of the opportunities that I created for myself in my life. So very important to be curious and constantly looking. And one of the researchers, I don't have the exact quote, I just wanted to share this. One of the things that actually allows you to stop overthinking is to create new experiences in your life. And I actually wrote this down, so I want to pull it up really quick. So any given person in life essentially has this map within their mind. So you have a map in your mind that essentially creates the thinking patterns that you have. When you keep that stale, or when you feel like you're just in this prison within your own home, within the walls of your bedroom, the reason it's stale and the reason that map isn't working anymore, or that old thinking process isn't working, is because it's stale. It's not new. It's not different. So get out of your room, go into the world, assume you know nothing, and that introduces new theories in your life, new opportunities, new segments you can go and try in life. If you don't keep updating your perspective in life, you will become out of touch with the real world. And this is so true, right? Think about the individual that's stuck in their ways, right? If you meet somebody and after 5 years, they think the same, they walk the same, they're living the same life, it's because there's no fresh theories, there's no fresh perspectives, and their mind map is the same. So that's really important that you update your perspective, and your success in life will largely be dependent on a couple things, which is one, your ability to speak, your ability to write, and the quality of your ideas. So in order for your quality of your ideas to improve, you need fresh perspectives to draw from, right? Some of the best speakers in the world do this, where they reference and they pull different resources within that process. It's so important, and you only gain that by changing your perspective to change your mind map. Overthinking it's a symptom of something. There's something deeper under there, so you have to have this willingness to fail, to learn, to be uncomfortable. But in the process of overthinking, there's always an underlying symptom. It could be fear, it could be embarrassment, lack of knowledge, lack of practice. So again, in order to get out of that, you have to push yourself in the deep end, jump off that cliff. There's going to be people that are 20 years old watching this. You're at the very start of your life. You have so much time to stack decades and become the #1 expert in your field. But for those who are in their 50s and their 60s that may have caught this video on YouTube and it's reached you, I want to let you know that you still have time, right? When we look at somebody like Colonel Sanders, who started KFC, I believe he built that business. It was either at 50 or at 70 or something like that. To be 50 years old, you still have time, right? To learn a new skill, to practice that skill, to create opportunities for yourself. And if you've been stuck in this mind map or this overthinking analysis paralysis of your life, you still have time and you still have room to grow out of that. And you still have a whole lot of life to live and a whole lot of life to experience. And just know that this might be the most difficult work you do. I believe working on yourself is the hardest work of all. Jim Rohn, one of my favorite speakers of all time, that was his entire philosophy, which is to work on yourself more than you work on your job. Because through that self-work, you become the best version of yourself. You become the person who you can become. God put you on this earth with a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity, and you have to seize it and seize the day and wake up and drive toward that mission. So I really hope that I hit the goal and promise of this video, to use these practical steps as you move forward. Remember, have the courage. That's the biggest thing. You gotta have the courage. You have to have the audacity to put yourself out there, to fail and to struggle. And remember, you're not gonna get great outcomes by doing average activities. So a lot of you, the reason you overthink, and I should have said this much earlier in the video, but the reason you overthink is you also consume too much, right? Every single day you wake up, you're scrolling reels. This guy's telling you to start this business. This guy's telling you to go do this career, do this job. You're in this constant state of consumption, and it's pulling you in 50 different directions. And the reason consumption is bad, the Telegram CEO says this, and it's such a great point. If you want to build something great, if you want to build something that's different, that can help humanity, you can't consume what everybody else consumes. So you can't consume the same news channels, the same negativity, the same social media doom scrolling type activities, and consuming the same thing that everybody's consuming and think you're going to have new and fresh and creative ideas. Again, shock your world, change your perspective, go travel, go learn from somebody that is in the position that you want to be in, right? A lot of the time you're overthinking is because you have no visualization of what the road is going to look like. But if I want to become a successful YouTuber, I'm going to go and meet with a YouTuber, schedule a meeting and ask him, what are the practical steps that I need to take? If I want to be a doctor in this specific field, if I want to be a programmer, be around these people. Again, if you are in an ecosystem where you're around people that don't inspire you, that don't push you, right? If you don't have that one go-to buddy that's on a mission just like you, and you're not feeding off of each other's energy, you're gonna fail. It's gonna be harder. It's gonna be a more difficult process. So that's also very, very important. So again, I hope I hit the promise of this video. If you have any questions, any other topics that I could dive deeper on, I look forward to. And get out there and let me know in the comments what you guys are working on, what things have allowed you to overcome your overthinking, if it's something you're struggling with, and share your project and what you're working on in the comments. I love reading those kind of things. So we'll see you guys in the next one, and thank you for your time.